Chapter 8, Organizing and Outlining, for use with the public speaking projects, Public Speaking the Virtual Text. Please note that not all material found in Chapter 8 will be covered in this PowerPoint tutorial, and also there may be one or two pieces of information included in this tutorial that might be different than material found in the textbook. When it comes to choosing topics for your speeches, you can observe what's happening around you, what's going on in the news, what's happening in social media, what's going on in pop culture. Another thing that you can do is think about your particular interests and skills, hobbies, things that you have, things that you really like to do or things that you're really interested in. So if you have a hobby or a pastime that you're really involved in and you're really excited or passionate about it, that might be a good topic for one of your speeches. And another thing is to think about the audience. What might the audience be interested in hearing about? Does that topic sound like something that might be appealing to members of the audience? There are two different types of purpose statements. The first is the general purpose statement. The general purpose purposes or purpose statements for speaking will be to inform, persuade, celebrate, mourn, or entertain. Those last three, celebrate, mourn, and entertain, fall under the umbrella of special occasion speaking. Once you have your general purpose, you can then develop your specific purpose statement in which you will state specific objectives that you hope to achieve or you want to achieve in your speech. If you have your specific purpose statement already developed, then it will help you tremendously in developing your thesis statement. A thesis statement is typically one or sometimes two, but usually one sentence that tells the audience what your speech is going to be about. Sometimes the thesis statement is also referred to as the central idea. Some books use the word thesis statement, other textbooks use the word central idea. You'll really get into depth in the body of your presentation as you explain and support your main points. And it's helpful to use parallel structure as you introduce your main points. In other words, you'll use the same wording or the same phrasing as you introduce your first main point, second main point, third main point, and so forth. And in your body, you will also include supporting material, or your sub-points, if you will, to help support your three main points, to provide a good foundation. Let's take a look at some of the different organizational patterns used in speeches. The first one shown here is the chronological style, and basically this is where you cover information moving forward in time or going backwards in time. For example, going from the past to the present, or vice versa, going from the present to the past. The topical pattern is probably the most commonly used pattern in my public speaking classes, or the most commonly used pattern that I notice students using. This is where the student will choose the main points that they want to use based upon topics or subtopics that are related to the overall thesis statement. The comparative organizational pattern basically takes two things, or two items, or two components, and then it looks at the similarities and differences, or the pros and the cons, and basically finds the similarities and differences between those two components. The spatial pattern basically takes a look at the relation between items in space. For example, if you were to give a speech about traveling, you might want to talk about traveling to 3 different cities. That would be an example of a spatial pattern, looking at 3 different cities and where they are geographically in relation to each other. The problem solution style or pattern is relatively straightforward. There's a problem and then you provide a solution to help resolve the problem. And then the causal pattern is sort of like the problem solution, although a little bit different. There's one thing that causes another thing. Because of A, therefore B. So it's basically sort of like the first item causes the second item to happen. It's important to try and connect your main points together by using transition statements or phrases. It might be a statement, or you might use a phrase that connect your main points together, your first main point to your second to your third main point. You can use internal previews to basically state what's coming up next or what's coming ahead. And you can also use summaries that basically reflect back on the material that you have just covered. You use this very commonly in your conclusion, where you look back at the main points in the material that you covered in the body of your speech or in your presentation. There are two different types of outlines that you can use as you prepare your speeches. The first one is a preparation outline. This is more of kind of an outline that you'll put together in the early stages of your presentation, where you'll write things out in more detail, and it might